What's up, y'all? So in a video I did a while back on why Kobe Bryant is greater than LeBron James, in the introduction I said something that I think triggered quite a few people and made a few bring up some interesting points in the comment section. I stated that Kobe is essentially a, in quote, lesser version of MJ, and really it wasn't an insult to Kobe, more of a compliment to Michael Jordan. It was a compliment that a player who was an, in quote, derivative of Jordan could actually be a player who ends up in the top 10 to top 15 of all time list, depending on how you rank. Now, I noticed that I heard many people down there making some claims that I don't think are necessarily true, coming to a conclusion of stating that Kobe was indeed better than MJ, and with that, I have to disagree. In this video, I'll have to explain on a factual basis just exactly why Kobe never completed the goal of eclipsing his airness himself. Now, before we get started, I have to let y'all know I was asked to do this video because of the impartiality and unbiased nature of the commentary on this channel, and understand that I grew up watching more Kobe than Jordan, so if anything, I should have a bias towards Mamba, but look, I have to let the facts be known because I have watched way too much MJ and researched his career far too much to not give him his due credit. Now make sure to hit that subscribe button for new videos and that bell to stay updated. Now without any further ado, let's get it. In order to properly understand the final product of the prime of both of these players, we must first look at their origins and understand how vastly different their starts were when it comes to basketball and how that affected them over the course of their careers. Now, Michael Jordan was 5'11" during his sophomore season and couldn't make his varsity team. And he was just motivated to prove his worth. He became the star of the Laney High JV team, getting multiple 40-point games. And during that following summer, he grew 4 inches and implemented a rigorous training regimen. And upon earning a spot on the varsity roster, Jordan averaged more than 25 points per game in his last 2 seasons. Now, upon his college start, he went through Dean Smith's team-oriented system and was named ACC Freshman of the Year, along with making the game-winning jumper in the 1982 championship game against Georgetown, which featured an NBA legend and Patrick Ewing on the other side. Jordan won that championship as a freshman, playing behind the lead of James Worthy and alongside Sam Perkins. Now, after spending 3 seasons at North Carolina, where Dean Smith really implemented a certain understanding of the game that could be seen in Michael's play at the professional level once joining forces with Phil Jackson. Now, to give those an understanding of this learning process, let's look at what fellow Tar Heel and NBA legend James Worthy had to say. When asked what were James Worthy's first impressions of Jordan before his freshman season even started, James Worthy said it best, in quote, "I knew he had the talent. I knew he was still learning the theory and the science of the game, so he was somewhat of a late bloomer. But I didn't think he would take it to the level that he took it," end quote. Now, he was drafted to the Chicago Bulls with the number 3 pick of the 1984 draft after winning the Naismith and Wooden, College Player of the Year awards in 1984. Kobe's upbringing and start were very different. Kobe started playing ball when he was 3 years old, and his grandfather would mail him videos of NBA games, which Kobe would then study. Now, his dad, Joe Jellybean Bryant, was an NBA player, and Kobe was very accustomed to traveling and playing professional ball with players much older than him. Now, in high school, after a very rough freshman year, he led the Aces to a 77-13 record for the rest of his high school career, with Kobe playing basically all 5 positions, and during his junior year averaged 31.1 points per game, 10.4 rebounds, and 5.2 assists, being named the Pennsylvania Player of the Year. Now, he attracted attention from lots of schools, with Villanova, Michigan, North Carolina, and Duke being at the top of his list. However, when KG got drafted in the first round, he strongly considered going directly to the pros. While in his senior year, he was invited by then 76ers head coach to work out and scrimmage with the team. And to give an idea of how dominant he was during his high school tenure, he averaged 30.8 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists, 4 steals, and 3.8 blocks per game, leading his team to a 31-3 record in his senior year. He ended his career in high school as Southeastern Pennsylvania's all-time leading scorer at 2,883 points, surpassing Lionel Simmons and even Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, Wilt Chamberlain. Now, just to show guys how much Kobe was balling, this man took Brandy, huge R&B star/actor, if you guys didn't know, to his senior prom. But that's besides the point. Understand that Kobe was an absolute beast in high school. He was a prodigy. His decision as a 17-year-old to go directly into the NBA would make him only the 6th player in NBA history to do so, and was met with a lot of criticism at the time. But this wasn't very common, with KG being the only exception in 20 years. Now, the Hornets actually never considered drafting Kobe until the day before. However, with LA making the trade offer, and they basically told Charlotte to pick him, and he became the first guard ever to get drafted directly out of high school. Jordan's early years were met with absolute statistical dominance. However, we must really look at everything to ensure we don't discredit or overrate his dominance. Now, during his rookie season, he had made a team that had won 35% of its games in the previous 3 seasons into playoff contenders with a monstrous 28.2 points per game on 51.5% shooting. Now, the fans voted Jordan as an all-star starter during his rookie season and was so unliked by his peers due to his ascension that there was actually a plan held to freeze out Jordan during the game, with Isaiah Thomas being the ringleader of that plan. Now, Jordan throughout his early years was a monster, in the scoring department, and he was a great rebounder and defender. However, he lacked the team success that one would expect from an individual who basically put up the kind of nights and numbers that Jordan did. Now, we all know that, by in his second year in the league, he went toe-to-toe with Larry Bird in the playoffs, getting swept, however, putting up, basically putting the whole league on notice, dropping a still unbroken record of 63 points in the playoff game. Now, Jordan in his third season had a showout season, averaging 37.1 points per game on 48.2% shooting, and he became the first player in NBA history to record 200 steals and 100 block shots, showing his dominance on both sides of the floor. However, he was once again swept by the Celtics. Now, Jordan again led the league in scoring, averaging with 35 points per game on 53.5% shooting, winning his first MVP in 1987, 1988, and also winning the Defensive Player of the Year award, averaging 1.6 blocks per game and 3.16 steals per game, with the Bulls finishing with a 50-32 record. Now, the Bulls, for the first time during Jordan's tenure, made it out of the first round, defeating the Cavs in 5 and losing in 5 to the Bad Boys Pistons, who proved to be the team that would transform Jordan into an even bigger monster. In the following year, Jordan still terrorized the league, leading the league in scoring, while leading the Bulls to a near 50-win season and an Eastern Conference Finals run. The Pistons, as I said before, would be the toughest team that the Bulls have faced thus far. The Pistons had set up a set of rules developed called the Jordan rules, which were basically just a psychological ploy against the Bulls, where they essentially doubled and triple teamed him on site when he had the ball. Now, this method worked because Michael had not yet worked up the trust to believe in addition to his teammates. And after being bounced in 6, the Bulls entered the next season with new head coach Phil Jackson, along with players improving drastically like Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and eventually lost to the Pistons in 7 after Scottie Pippen had a migraine and could not answer the call as he was previously in that series, and the Bulls were sent for a 3rd straight year. And Jordan and the Bulls had been mentally and physically beaten by the Pistons, who were a great training tool for the young Bulls, who came back better than ever in the 1991 season, actually sweeping the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals and forced those guys to walk off the court in embarrassing fashion with their heads down. Now, this was the year that Jordan broke through and defeated Magic Johnson and the Lakers in the finals for his first NBA championship, and we all know where it went from there. For anyone who doesn't understand how good those Pistons were and how necessary they were for Jordan's development, even he states, end quote, "I'm happy we went through those circumstances because it taught us to understand what winning was all about," end quote. Think about it, like finally being able to beat your big brother, and his tricks, intimidation, and mind games don't work anymore, and you've matured and you're ready for that smoke. And we all know where Jordan went from here. 2 separate three-peats with 2 totally different looking squads each time, and many amazing performances to make us wonder if his career was scripted. Kobe Bryant had a much different ascension to the top of the league, with him playing primarily limited minutes and being, he began seeing more playing time throughout the season. Throughout that first season, he only saw 15.5 minutes per game. And Kobe came in during the 1997 playoffs after Shaq had fouled out in Game 5 with 1:46 remaining. Kobe came in and airballed 4 shots, including 2 potentially tying shots in the final minute. Now, Shaq commented that, end quote, he was the only guy who had the guts to take shots like that, end quote. In his second season, he received a bit more PT and more than doubled his point production, and would at times play small forward when they ran small ball, and was a runner-up for the NBA's 6th Man of the Year award. That year, he also became the youngest All-Star in NBA history, and his 15.4 points per game was the highest of any non-starter in the season, which helps display that, yes, he deserved more PT, but it wasn't happening because there were players with more experience in front of him. In the 1998-1999 season, after Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones were traded, Kobe started every game that 50-game lockout-shortened season. Now, early in his career, he was being compared to MJ and Magic, and when Phil Jackson took over as head coach in 1999, Kobe finally got his, he got his shot, earning appearances in the All-NBA, All-Star Game, and All Defensive Teams. Now the Lakers were finally, they were finally championship contenders after a disappointing exit to the Spurs the year before, and Kobe and Shaq terrorized the league. A three-peat was the product of a partnership of Kobe and Shaq. And to those who don't believe that Kobe was a partner and not a sidekick, I know you guys like stats. Let's look at stats. In 2001, 2002, Shaq finished number 3 in MVP voting, while Kobe finished number 5. That sounds like a partnership to me. In 2002, 2003, Kobe finished number 3 and Shaq finished number 5. Oh, that sounds like a partnership to me. In 04, 05, Kobe finished number 5 and Shaq number 6. Those guys sound like equals. Now in 2001, Kobe actually led the playoffs, the total playoffs in win shares with 3.8. And these two were partners in crime, each with their own responsibility to lead that team to success. Kobe then went on to, go through similar struggles as MJ to learn the cold truths of complete and sole leadership upon the departure of Shaq, with LA struggling for 1 year while he struggled with injury, missing almost a month of games, and the Lakers missed the playoffs, drawing a rightfully scrutinous eye to his lack of success since Shaq's departure. Now Kobe then went on to win back-to-back Finals MVPs in 2009, 2010, and in 2009 became the first player since MJ to average 35 and 5 for the winning team in the finals. Now what many people won't say about Kobe's rough Game 7 performance in the 2010 finals is that he led the Lakers to a comeback from a 13-point deficit from the third quarter, scoring 10 of his game-high 23 points in the fourth quarter and finished the game with 15 boards. All right. This also marked the first time in NBA history that the Lakers won a Game 7 against the Celtics in the NBA Finals, which was quite impressive considering that the Lakers and Celtics have the most notorious rivalry in NBA history, and it would only be appropriate that LA's most notorious player in their history was the one to break the seal for LA. However, now that we've gone through their ascensions and their triumphs as champions, we must discuss the differences between the two and why Kobe was never quite Jordan and was in fact very different. From a basketball standpoint, Kobe was about 6'6.5" and sometimes measured 6'7", while MJ was about 6'6" flat. MJ had broader shoulders and was built more like a bull, while Kobe had a slimmer, slithery build akin to a snake, no pun intended. Now, Michael could be known for using his brute force and speed to get past you and finish over you with pure strength and grace in the air, while Kobe would typically use his length to slip to the rim through slim gaps and basically use his flexibility to finish special plays. Now, Michael had extremely huge hands, still has them, which allow him to pump fake and maneuver the ball in the air for a better look, which helped his field goal percentage, believe it or not. Just ask anybody who played with him. He would show you the ball, get you off your feet, and finish however he wanted at the rim. Now, Kobe had great hands, but they were just smaller than Michael's, which didn't allow him to have that extra dimension of control over the ball. Michael had the ability to laser in defensively and shut people down. Kobe could cover you the whole night and make life hell. However, Jordan was a nightmare defensively for anybody and had an ability to fight through any screen and intimidate people defensively, whereas Kobe was more of a gambler, even though he was a very, very tight cover. Now, to compare their scoring, I will put it like this. MJ was, who you could count on more for a consistent scoring output, having better efficiency, as well as, a great volume averaging over 30 for his career. Kobe, in my opinion, was the better scorer once he got rolling. Now, I believe MJ is a better offensive player because he's more dependable for his output and doesn't need as much to get rolling. But look, I have never seen any player get hotter than Mr. Kobe Bryant. And this is where Kobe shines. With an improved outside game, a little overrated, but better than MJ, he could stretch the floor, and his percentages may fool people into thinking he's an average three-point shooter, when really he just took a lot of contested shots and shots at the buzzer. Once he gets rolling, I don't believe any other player in NBA history could be as unstoppable as him on offense because of his unmatched ability to make difficult shots. And this goes back to something many people questioned in my last video. Was Kobe more skilled than Michael? If by more skilled we're referring to footwork and an array of different moves, I would go with Kobe on that as well. To give an idea of how I see the difference between these two, for a 7-game series, I'm taking MJ. I'll take MJ for sure, but for a 1v1 out of 10, I do believe that Kobe would win half, if not more, due to him, that's basically his specialty. That's literally what his game was built on. Now, as a weakness, I do believe that Michael used to have severely bad ball hawking attitude, to the point where Phil Jackson in the 1991 finals confronts him about not kicking the rock out when it was clear that the Lakers were collapsing on him. However, he eliminated this from his game. Kobe also built up a ball hog persona. After leading the Lakers in assists per game for multiple years during that mid-2000s, period, we saw a lot of Kobe doing it all on his own, which could lead to detriments for his team. Now, Chauncey Billups put it best for the 2004 finals. He said, in quote, "If we're going to play Shaq straight up, the Lakers' eyes are going to get big, which means that they're going to keep throwing it down there. But what's going to happen is Mr. Bryant is going to get a little discouraged with getting no touches. And now the second half comes around. Now he's pressing. He's going to start coming down and just breaking the offense. When you do that, you're done. You're playing right into our hands. Even if you start making those shots, you're finished." End quote. Now we have to remember that this is a Chauncey Billups who also believes that Kobe was the most skilled player ever, and even he acknowledges that Kobe's biggest weakness was his ego. An easy way to differentiate how these dudes played is by listening to Phil Jackson, who was asked if Carmelo should model his game after Kobe Bryant. Phil responded, in quote, "No one can approach that. I don't expect anyone to be able to model their behavior after that. Although Kobe modeled his behavior a lot about MJ, but he went beyond Michael in his attitudes towards training. I know Mike would probably question me saying that, but he did." End quote. Leadership-wise, while Jordan wins this one definitively, this is my reason as to why. MJ brought a winning culture to Chicago, whereas Kobe Bryant carried along a tradition of greatness for LA. Kobe was expected to win in LA, while MJ, along with Isaiah Thomas, are some of the only players from that era to bring a winning culture to a team, decrepit of any. Now, MJ was also able to be dominant without a dominant big man in both of his title runs. And while many may dispute Powell's dominance while he wasn't an all-star, look man, he was an all-star while Kobe had those back-to-back runs. It's just that simple. Now, their personalities were different as well. Michael was charismatic and gregarious, while Kobe was a reserved individual, especially during his younger years. Now, I'm not saying one is better and one is worse, but Phil Jackson claimed that it was because Kobe's reservedness, it was because he was younger than the other players and hadn't developed strong social skills in college. Phil also outlined that Jordan and Kobe were different mentality-wise, claiming that if he took Jordan out of a game because he was ruining the offense by trying to score all the time, then Jordan would just do better when he got back in. He had known what he'd done. He had a conscience. He said Kobe, on the other hand, would stand next to him and incessantly ask if he could go back in. This was another difference, basically, that Kobe had no conscience. And while that is cool for game winners in ISO situations, that is tough to work with when you're in the middle of a team game. Michael could turn his conscience off in clutch moments, but during the game, it was very much active. To sum it all up, in my opinion, Kobe Bryant was very different from Michael, the same way that Vegeta is different from Goku. The same way that a younger brother can have much more drive than you, but he may just not be as good as you. I believe that Kobe was a prodigy, so skilled and hungry, and he skipped a few steps that was detrimental to his development on the court and his understanding of the game from a macrocosmic perspective, while Michael Jordan was similar to a character in the movie who had no powers and had to learn to get by without them until one day his powers appeared, and all his training just made him even more dangerous. MJ was a 5'11". He was 5'11" as a sophomore and didn't even make the varsity team, while Kobe was balling out from freshman year. Kobe was bred specifically for this task, eating, sleeping, and breathing basketball, which is why his training regimen was so tight and unreplicable. All right? But Jordan was an undersized player who was looked over as a youth, and that forced him to work hard, and soon he was blessed with intangibles that allowed him to blossom into the player that we see today. A player who had won an NCAA championship, not being the team's best player, learning the ebbs and the flows of the game in North Carolina, and struggling for years, getting beaten up by Boston Celtics and Detroit Pistons to be molded into basketball's toughest legacy to crack. Kobe was great, but in my personal estimation, Jordan was greater. Now, if you like videos like this, definitely click that subscribe button. I am so happy to see the channel growing like this. So definitely hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to it to stay updated on new videos. And you already know to never be mad at me, but to be mad at yourself for being an underachiever. Play the outro.